Once we're clear on the ICP, we need to be clear on the podcast positioning. So for us, we decided to go, so you've seen the ICP that we serve, but we're like, okay, how do we design a podcast that will only cater to a specific audience? We redesigned the podcast a few times, so that's something you can also bear in mind. You can go with the concept, and if you see it doesn't stick the way you want, you can totally rebrand it. That's all right, and it works. So for us now, we've decided to go with consulting leaders for a very simple reason. When I reach out to a B2B coach or a consultant and I say, I want to talk about the business of consulting, if it's a consultant, like it's extremely straightforward. It's like instant clarity on value. They are not going to ask themselves, oh, but what can I bring to the show? Or like, why do you want to interview me specifically? Like, what do you want me to talk about? It's like, I interview leaders in consulting. You're a consultant. Are you a leader? Come on my show. And that's an important part of it as well. You want it to be a bit of an ego stroke. When you reach out to someone and be like, hey, I have this podcast about XYZ and I interview only people like you, you want them to see the value and you want them to take it as an ego stroke, which is why podcast works that well. It is. And it's like, hey, I'm going to put the spotlight on you. We're going to talk about you. You're going to talk about your business. We're going to see how you think. We're going to basically get the founder story here. And we're going to do great content out of it, which again, and I'm going back to this one, but needs to be the legitimate goal of this thing. You want to create good content for the industry first and foremost. For B2B coaches and fractional CXOs, it's a very similar target. So we tweak a bit the messaging when we reach out, but it's basically the same thing. It's like, hey, I only interview people like you, consultants or B2B coaches or fractional CXOs, and I'm reaching out to you specifically because you do XYZ, which is very close to the business of consulting. This allows us to get a very, very high positive reply rates when we reach out to those ICPs. And I'm going to show you the proof of that in a few minutes. I'm going to pause here. Anybody have any questions around clarity on the ICP, clarity on the decision maker, and clarity on the podcast positioning and messaging?
No, if I could just, do you mind if I add just a comment on here? Just of, you've been outstanding. So speaking of the rebrand, rebranded the podcast to the owner seat. And just so you all know, I'm a fractional CFO, so that's what I do, but who my ICP is. And G, what you've helped me out with is just getting very narrow. I spent years spraying and praying, right? It's like a wide net, which is typically my personality. And I got very narrow and I couldn't believe the results. So I use Sales Navigator, and then we talked Apollo and some others. So now, I mean, my time is so efficient. And you're right, when I outreach, I use LinkedIn as my primary outreach source, which I'll get to email soon. I'm going to follow your feedback. It's I just haven't gone there yet. But the actual reply rate and the acceptance is high, and I'm going directly to exactly who I want. And so, and then rebranding, you were right with the title. Previously, it was Valicites, which is my second company's name. And while I enjoyed that name because it promoted the name, it wasn't directly to, you're right, to the ICP. Like they didn't attach to it quickly. They were kind of like, what is Valicites, right? It's that whole spiel. So thank you for this. It's definitely working. I appreciate it.
Love the feedback and love that it works, Albert. Thanks a lot for this.
If you run a professional services firms and you are not growing as fast as you'd like, then I'd like to give you a free gift. My team and I have put together the B2B Podcasting Secrets Playbook, which is basically 3 years of my teams and I knowledge, solving branding and lead generation for good for professional services firms. So if this is you, then your business growth is directly linked to the number and the quality of the relationships that you're able to build with actual decision makers, also whilst building reputation and brand. And we got pretty good at helping people like you do exactly that using podcast. So the playbook has 9 sections, from how to even position it, to finding the first guests, how to transform content and guests into clients, all the way up to becoming the #1 influencer in your space. It includes visuals, videos, text and templates, and case studies relevant to each and every section. And if you want to go even faster, then on the thank you page, you can book a call directly with my team and we will look at your firm, see if we can help. And if so, we'll put together a tailored plan for your specific podcast that you can use and implement.